Another thing I was doing while I'm waiting for my parts to arrive is playing with my spark plug wires. They're pretty ancient and a little corroded, but a new set costs a bleeding fortune. But playing around with these, I found out that the boot that covers the hole in the camshaft cover actually pries off of the actual spark plug lead and will slide down the wire. Similarly, the boot on the other end slides up, and you'll get to the fitting, which seems to be Ferrari specific, that plugs into the module back by the suspension tower. But when you get that exposed, it actually unscrews, believe it or not, leaving you with this fitting. So if you pop one boot off, pop the other boot off, and then I bought a set of generic high-performance V8 spark plug leads, and I just pop that into the boot. Believe it or not, this will pop onto the spark plug, and this will cover up the hole in the camshaft cover. And I just put a little electrical tape there when it's hooked up, and it'll actually look pretty factory. Now on this end, the hard part, if you're willing to do this, is you have to pry off. Well, after you put your other boot on the other end, then you're going to pry off this fitting, attach it to this wire after you've obviously stripped it and exposed the core, and then you can screw this back on, pop the boot back down, and you're ready to go. And it will save about $400 worth of leads. I hope they work. Eventually, when it all goes together, the original spark plug wire will go down and snap into the spark plug, and then the boot will just snap into its place, and it should look pretty factory. We shall see if it actually works or not when I start the engine. Another quick comment, this was the camshaft that I pulled out to check the oil drain hole, which actually is in the correct place, so I'm fine there. But when you're putting the camshaft back in, make sure, I've got aluminum foil to keep the crud out here, make sure you line up your TDC marks, top dead center marks, before you tighten down the camshaft, because you don't want it to be off and shoving a valve into a piston head. My other comment would be, I carefully locked my camshafts down with the cardboard pieces, but now I realize I'm actually going to have to pull them all out because I'm going to replace the seals behind the camshafts. But again, when you're putting them back in, make sure your timing marks are lined up right so you're not pushing any valves into any pistons. Okay, while I'm waiting for parts to come, I've been carefully cleaning my gasket surfaces. And the other thing I did was, at the beginning, I pulled these little cam belt follower things off that were horribly grooved because they were rubbing on the belt. Turns out they're not even supposed to be touching the belt. They're supposed to be like a millimeter or two off the belt. Anyways, I polished them up, got rid of the grooves, and tried to make them as smooth as possible so when they go back on they will not be touching the belt. And I'm wondering if that's what was causing my funny noises. Okay, now I'm going to pull out the camshaft so that I can change the seals up at the front. I'm at the back of the passenger side intake camshaft, and it's got the sensor on it. So you have to remove the cap off of here with the 8mm bolts, then you have to loosen up the Allen head bolts and pull this piece off, and then you are free to actually get to the whole camshaft. Now I'm just removing the 10mm nuts that hold the bearing caps down. Most important is fill all the holes here in your cylinder head where things can fall down, because you're going to be pulling off lots of little bolts and washers, and you don't want them going into nooks and crannies where you can't get to them. Okay, bolts are off. Now I'm going to use my magnetic pickup again just to get all these thousands of little washers off so they don't go flying around to places that I don't want them to be. This works pretty good. The other nice thing is you don't have to actually pry the bearing caps up because the pressure from the valve springs is going to be pushing the camshaft out, so it'll actually lift the camshaft up. On the other hand, it's probably safer to sort of loosen all the bolts in a stepped pattern so you don't put stress on one end of the camshaft or the other as it's being pushed up off the valve springs. Obviously, as you're taking the bearing caps off, you have to make sure that you put them someplace in exact order and exact orientation so you can put them back exactly the way they were before. And when all the caps are off, which I think they are, the camshaft should just lift out. There we go. And the seals are all on this ring. You can just slide it right off the camshaft and you're done. Okay, now I'm trying to clean the various goops that have been put in here to seal the camshaft ring thing. I'm actually just using a pointed stick to dig this stuff out because you don't have to worry about the wood gouging the aluminum. The other thing I've been doing, which is probably of absolutely no value, as long as I have the camshaft out, I've been using my magnetic pickup to lift the tappet here, and I don't know if you can see down there, but you can actually see the valve spring pretty well if you lift the tappet up a little bit. So I've just been going through and just checking to make sure my valve springs all look okay, because I've seen some pictures of broken valve springs on the internet and didn't want to miss that. And the other things I'm doing while the cam is out, so I don't forget, is I've got some official engine assembly lube, and I'm just squirting some in each of the bearings for the camshaft now so I don't forget to do it later. Because after all this work, basically all the oil has left the bearings, and when I restart it the first time, I don't want to destroy anything, so this kind of gives a little bit of protection before the oil starts flowing. Okay, once I get my ring off with the seal and the other seal, I put the camshaft back in, and I put the bearing caps back on in order and in orientation so I don't hit them and scramble them or something. I'm going to leave the nuts off for the time being because I'm not going to bother tightening it down. The ring does fit over the sensor wheel at the end of the camshaft. Very tight, but it does make it.